Hey guys, welcome to the introduction to System 9 of the Guitar Daily Workout. In the first 4 books, we really went through the foundational studies that really gave you the foundations of all of your playing, the most important arpeggios, scales, the pentatonic scales, major scales, 3-on-a-string scales, cage system scales, all of your arpeggios. In books 5 through 8, we really dealt with intermediate areas, some super vital things, hexatonic scales, both minor and major, all of your 7th chords, all of those sort of things. So really some great studies that should, if you've gone through those 8, you should have technical mastery of the neck. Now that doesn't make you a great player, but it does mean that you know all the foundations, that you can access a lot of music that people are playing, and you should be able to play a lot of it and sort of have an understanding of the template of where they're coming from. Well, systems 9 through 12 really get into the advanced studies. So this is, if you're starting to listen to jazz music, or you're listening to fusion music, or you're listening to progressive rock music or something like that, where there's very sophisticated harmonic language, then these are the books that you really need. And if even if you haven't done the previous 8 studies, that's totally fine. If you sort of know the materials that are in them, you can jump into this, and it should be a really great value for you if you're trying to access that sort of music. Okay, so I'm going to just jump right in here. So to talk through what we're going to do in System 9, we always start off these systems with a finger gymnastics. We're going to do the same thing for this one. I'm going to just show it to you really quickly. It was an idea by the guitar great Don Mock, where he would just take a really simple concept, for instance, like a chromatic scale, and he would break it up into octaves. So instead of going down, he's going to jump across octaves on it. But what it makes is some very interesting and complex patterns that are very difficult to play, especially on your right hand. So we're going to use that as a template for our finger gymnastics. All right, then we get into the meat of things. Those are important just for syncing your left-right hand, getting some technique studies. But the next thing we're going to get into is really an important thing, and that is playing major 7th chords, all of your iterations of the 7th chords. But we're going to do it in a different way that's really useful. So normally most people, if we said play a G major 7 chord, for instance, they would play it here. Or that would be, they'd have a bunch of different versions of it wherever that major 7th is. But I'm going to do it in a different way. We're going to take it into 4-note groups. So for instance, if I took the notes as I started off and took that F sharp, G, B, D, and just took it up an octave, all of a sudden you can see I got a lot of range on that. And then I also, of course, can do it up the octave. But the interesting thing about this is if you said, for instance, play that as the G major 7, and you said play a G7, I could just lower that 7th note, and then I've got a G7 chord. If you said play a minor 7th, then I would lower the 3rd of that chord. If you said play a minor 7 flat 5, I could lower the 5th as well. So you see how useful that could really be, and we're going to learn all the different iterations of that. If it's a major 7th on this string set, you get the idea, minor 7th and so on. So that'll be really helpful for you to see these patterns going up and across the neck. All right, the next thing we're going to jump into is a scale that has turned into one of my absolute favorite scales. And you may not have heard of it, and I don't even know, honestly, if this is the correct technical name of this, but I've heard it called the Coltrane pentatonic. It was one that John Coltrane used a lot. So especially if you're playing over a minor chord or a minor chord to like a dominant chord of some sort. This scale's not going to be our regular pentatonic, but it's going to sound like this. And you can hear like... hear how cool that's sounding, and especially if you're mixing it with your regular pentatonics. So we're going to learn all the versions of the Coltrane pentatonics. They're really useful over a minor chord, over a 5 chord, and you can also use it over a minor 7 flat 5 chord. It basically outlines the minor 7 flat 5 chord arpeggio. So super useful chord in all kinds of different applications. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to take our harmonic minor scales, We're going to do every version of the harmonic minor scale, all 7 versions. So by the end of this, every possible iteration of the harmonic minor scale you're going to know going up the neck. You know, all of them, all the way up and all the way down the neck, which of course is a really useful scale, especially if you're in minor keys. And then the very last thing that we're going to do is a really great exercise. You know, all of the great guitar players, when you see them, they don't merely play in one position. You know, they're not just stuck in one position all the time, but they're moving along the neck all the time. And a lot of the stuff through systems 5 through 8 dealt with that. We're going to do some really hardcore ones on 9 through 12. But one of the things we're going to do is just go through all of the iterations of a major scale modes on one string. All right, so this is going to get really fun, but it really has some real life implications too. You know, I'm not into practicing for practicing, just, you know, stuff that's not usable. All of the stuff that's in these systems, it's all stuff that you should be able to apply really well and readily in your real world playing situations. If you're not using it in real music, why bother to learn it? There's so much to learn that has real implications in your music. That's what you want to spend your time on. So, for instance, let's just take the key of F. If I took the key of F and I started here on my lowest note on my E string, I could play the Ionian scale. But then I could also play the Lydian scale. And then I could play Locrian, Phrygian, Mixolydian, and then finally I'm back to the Ionian. All right, so if you want to, if you think you can do this, the next video is the placement test video, and you'll be able to go through and just get your guitar in your hand, see if this works for you. But again, that is a really useful exercise. It doesn't seem like it would be, but once you really start using it, you'll find yourself being able to play along the neck, and then you have these jump off points in your soloing. It'll be really helpful for you. So if you're interested in the system and you're wondering if that's the right book for you, the very next video is going to be the placement test. Get your guitar in your hand, and I'll just quiz you on some stuff. You see if you know the stuff. If you know the stuff, move on to book 10. But if you feel like this would really help you, then book 9 is the book for you. Thanks.